Hi, I'm Noel. You might be wondering, why am I lying there doing a Marlon Brando impression? And I'm glad you asked, because I've been putting together my next archive video here. And this particular video is getting into the dirtiest, nastiest, grossest part of the restoration phase, and that is clearing out the climate control system, including all the stuff left behind from the creatures that actually did live behind the dashboard for who knows how long. Yeah, that's right, we're talking rats. Gross, nasty stuff living behind the dashboard that I needed to uncover, like the pedal mounting bracket thing. I don't actually know the term for what that's called. The pedal mounting thing that was very rusty, had a lot of corrosion, and that's really kind of the tip of the iceberg. So here we are, diving real deep, up to our elbows, into the dirty, nasty stuff behind the dashboard. There's another tantalizing teaser shot for you of what's to come. Totally been infested by rats, and so I had to do a lot of digging to restore it, to do more great stuff. So here we go, diving in. So here we are, pulling out the very first parts that I can get to. There's a lot of disassembly to come. Hope you love disassembly and discovery, because hey, here we go again. This would be the control valve that runs through the heater core out to the radiator and the engine. This is a very common failure point. If you know anything about these cars, I'm sure you've read and seen just how prone these parts are to failing and then leaking coolant inside your car. That was something else I needed to dig into and replace. So yeah, reason number 101 to start digging in behind the dashboard. Next step here is going to be removing the this is the warning control module, I guess. So anytime the ECU, something, you get the check engine light, it's probably originating from that piece of hardware. Pull that out of the way. Moving on to the climate control. You've got the climate control unit in the front that is attached. A lot of different attachments on both sides. It's connected on the passenger side by this wire here. You can see it's kind of hooked through with a tab that holds it down. That's going to control the hot and cold setting. And then also on the left side, you've got all of these vacuum hoses that are also connected to a variety of valves and controls. Also on the driver's side of the heater unit, a lot of different labels. They're routed very differently. They're labeled on the bottom of the control unit. So I didn't really know where everything was routed to, but they did have labels. So I just kind of pulled each one off one at a time, gave them a label matching what they were labeled on the control unit, and then left those connected to the valves and everything on the driver's side of the heater unit. So hopefully when it comes time to put that all back together, I can retrace my steps. With all that labeled and the control unit removed from the car, time to move on to more of the climate control system, starting here with the blower motor. This was real nasty. This is the nastiest corner of the car by far. The front right passenger footwell area clearly had rats living in there, and they'd done a lot of damage to the padding, as you can see. They'd also moved in and made themselves comfortable with a nice home in my blower. So I needed to pull that out totally and give that a really thorough cleaning and restoration, because it was just straight up nasty. Who knows what kind of rat poop and pee and fur and other just gross, nasty stuff, probably insects. And there you go. There's a real glory shot of the fresh air that was being provided. Moving along here, after pulling that out, going to be I think it's the AC condenser next. My air conditioning actually has, most of that system has been removed, so pulling that out, not too difficult. Some of it's already gone. Back to the heater unit here now. There are some hoses going through the firewall. You can see right here, those run from the motor and from the radiator into the cabin, into the heater core. So going to have to connect those and try to avoid pouring a bunch of radiator fluid all over the floor of the car. There's not actually radiator fluid in the car right now. It looks like it was just filled with water, but still wearing the respirator because you just never know once you're digging this deep what you're going to encounter there behind the dashboard. So disconnect the hoses, try to angle those up so that they're not just pouring water fluid, radiator fluid everywhere. A few screws to go. Out comes the heater unit. And you can see that makes a big difference. We're already most of the way cleared. Going to be pulling out that Firewall padding, which is just totally chewed up, disgusting, seen better days. Next step, going to be moving over to the driver's side and trimming out some of the rest of this wire harness, including this just terrible patch job that a previous owner had done and melted wires. Going to trim all that up, clean that up, and do a better wiring job down the line. Here are the remnants of the wire harness. Still need to be removed. This is kind of like, I guess you could call this the dashboard harness. And you can see it kind of runs across the front of the Firewall there. Just a few clips there, hold those in, pop those out, comes free. This is the easy part. Pull that free, and then you got some more fishing you got to do over here on the driver's side. There's a few places where it goes back into other parts of the car. That would be through to the driver's door for the windows and locks and power mirrors. And then also there's a couple different places where it goes through the Firewall. You've got one leaning straight forward. See the big hole there? That goes straight through the Firewall. There's also another one on the side that's going to feed actually up through the fenders to the front of the engine bay, where it plugs into, I think, the distributor and the ignition coil. So those are all things that are going to be wired through. First step here, pulling the wiring out for the windshield wipers. Feeds straight through the Firewall, disconnected. Next part here is a little more tricky. You've got a lot of stuff that feeds up through the fender and then goes all the way up to the very front of the car. There's a little access door that feeds back out into the engine bay. I say just try to pull it all the way through. It is kind of a pain to fish it through there, but in order for me to really get to clean everything, I need to get those wires out of the way and pulled out so I can pull all the other stuff out. So something I kind of have to go through. So here's my plan of attack. Pull those, label everything, of course, then fish that back through into the interior of the car where the rest of the harness is, so I can pull that all through. One concern I had with this was when I am pulling this out, that's well and good, but how do I get it to feed back through? So what I came up with is I attached basically just a little bit of string here. I just happened to have it in the garage. Tied that onto the end of the harness and pull that through, but I gave myself enough string. My plan is to leave the string inside the car, kind of taped up somewhere where I won't accidentally pull it through. Then when it's time to feed that wiring back up through the fender, I can tie the end back onto and then use that to kind of fish it through. Hopefully make my life a little easier. Time will tell. So moving on, got that pulled out of the way. Now it's time to move on to the corner of horror. Every time I looked at this corner, it just looked overwhelming. It looked like a mess. Didn't know where to start. Was intimidated to start. It was nasty. But you know, I've saved it to last, and so now I've got to bite the bullet and get into this. So all right, moment of truth. Here is probably the worst thing I found in the car. So if you are squeamish, if you don't like looking at nasty things, here's your warning. I recommend skipping ahead on the video a little bit, because this is the whole reason why I was being this thorough. And I didn't know this was here. I was pulling wires here, and I pulled on something that I thought was a wire, and it was not a wire. Okay, you've been warned. So here is the passenger that I had been carrying around in the car that I didn't know of. But I guess we found out who had been living in my blower motor, who had made their nice, comfy little home there, and then I guess maybe gotten stuck or something behind the dashboard. And God knows how long that had been behind there. And again, this is why I'm digging this deep. This is why I'm doing all of this probably a little bit overkill teardown of the interior of this car. So that little grisly discovery out of the way. Most of the wire harness has been pulled out, and just a little bit more to fish through from the passenger side of the engine compartment. And then we've got all of this wiring out of the way. Kind of same story as the driver's side. Feeds through. This is a shorter run of wire that kind of just goes here to the front wheel well that leads to the fusible links, the horn relay, I think the headlights, stuff like that. Originally, I did try to pull the clips out of the back of the fusible links, but it was just totally impossible. Maybe if you're a better mechanic, you know a way, but I ended up just cutting it because I couldn't find a way to pull those out. So that's something that, again, I'll have to reconnect and put back together. But I've got it out now. Wiring is out of the way, so now we can do a little bit more clean out. Anyway, here's the full look of the wire harness. Pulled out of the car, laid it out on the garage floor to get an idea of what everything I'm looking at. Lots of labels on everything, and those actually did help me. So I guess that worked out for me. Well done, self. Oh, yeah. So, wiring's out. Now it's time to move back over to the driver's side, where I'm going to pull out. We're going to have to pull out some of the pedals here in order to get to that pedal mounting bracket. Pedal box? I don't know what it's called. But it's very rusty, and I've got to pull it out so I can restore it, which means the clutch and the brake pedals got to come out. Biggest challenge, I would say, with pulling these out is just the tight space, especially with the padding in there. The biggest thing are the fulcrum bolts at the very top where, you know, the pedal kind of rotates around. Getting those out is a pain in a tight space, especially because the padding's there. So quite often to find that the bolt is hitting the padding and just making it real difficult to get anything out. So first step, we're going to be pulling a few pins. It's also in the factory service manual. Highly recommend get yourself a free copy of that on Xenon Z-Car. Totally worth it. Save you a bunch of headache. Pulling those pins out, the next thing you're going to do is have to pull a couple springs. They can be pretty tight, so I might need to use a pair of pliers like I did. Pliers, vice grips, something to give you some good grip there. Here you see we've got the fulcrum bolt in the back there, the silver bolt. Getting that out is a real pain in the butt. Eventually, I think the best way I was able to do it was to grab it with a pair of vice grips and just work it until it came out. It's very tight space there with the Firewall padding. So if you are doing this, yeah, pack your patience, and it should come out with enough cursing and swearing. Clutch pedals out. This video makes it look so easy. That took me way longer. Next up will be the parts for the clutch pedal system. A couple springs and attached to that swivel, if you will. Next step here, brake pedal attached to the same framework. Gas pedal is not attached to that, so no need to pull that if you don't want to, don't have to. First thing I'm going to do, pull a couple pins here that hold the brake lights. I pull the pins out and then kind of reassemble those, try to keep everything together. Again, labeling everything, keeping it together in bags so I know what goes where. Then pull out, again, fulcrum bolt here on the top. This, I think, was maybe rusted in there, was in there real tight. I mean, there's a lot of corrosion in there, so it's probably no surprise that rust was not making that any easier to get out. Again, eventually with enough cursing and swearing and sweating, it does come free. Brake pedal is out, which means now it's time to actually pull out this crusty mounting bracket. So you've got 4 nuts here underneath, and then 2 bolts on this crossbar. That's it for inside the car. You're also going to have a couple of connections inside the engine bay. 4 nuts underneath, 12 millimeters. Then a couple bolts attached here on the crossbar, also 12 millimeters. To complete the removal, you've got a couple of nuts here on the firewall. Those are also 12 millimeter. Kind of tricky to get down there, not a lot of room. If you have a ratcheting box wrench, I think that'll make this process a little easier for you. I did not have those at the time, so it was a little slow going, but eventually got there. With all that removed, the bracket here now is loose, ready to go. Throughout all of this, I was hoping not to remove the steering column. It looked okay, and I was a little bit worried about bending that or getting that in right, so I was trying not to remove that, and that meant not removing the crossbar. Eventually I did realize that there's just not enough room there to get that bracket out. Other challenge is that this bracket here is also caught a little bit, well, it's been rusted to the padding for the firewall, and then it's also getting a little bit caught there on some of the brake linkage going through the firewall. Again, tight spaces, a lot of stuff that it's getting caught on. Much easier to pull that crossbar and then wiggle yourself free. It's only 8 bolts, I think, 3 on each side and then 2 in the middle. Comes out, being careful not to bend the steering column too much. But with that out of the way, much easier to get that out and free. All right, look at all the rust on that thing. Wow. Last step here, just gonna pull out all of this nasty, chewed up firewall padding that had just been really torn up by rats, I guess. Again, I'm putting on the respirator because you might be able to see there's just a lot of stuff floating around when you pull that off, and that's not the kind of stuff I feel like breathing. If you don't have a respirator, I definitely highly recommend one. You only get 1 set of lungs as far as I know, so take care of them. So there you go, the nasty firewall pad is pulled out, the climate control is pulled out, the rusty pedal box is pulled out. Oh boy, the car is finally cleared out here, the interior. I've got access to everything. Time to tackle all of the rusty, crusty rust in the car, getting ready with all of my grinders and grinding wheels and wire brushes, all that stuff. Got a lot of rust there in the spare tire well, so that's going to have to come out and be put back together, cleaned up. This is probably one of the final videos here for my archive series, I guess you could call it. Did a lot of this and then put it away, and then did a lot of work and stopped filming, so unfortunately I don't have a lot of video of all of the process that got me from there to where I am today, and getting this car cleaned up so that it can get put back together, and then maybe even drive it someday. Hey, wouldn't that be fun? Eventually go from doing mechanical stuff to maybe doing actual car stuff. That'd be exciting. Thank you again for watching. Really appreciate everybody who has been watching the videos and leaving comments and subscribers. Means a ton to me. Hope that people are enjoying these videos and getting something out of it. So if you are enjoying these, please, as always, like and subscribe, and give me a shout out down below in the comments. Let me know what you think. I love it and happy to answer any questions. So thanks again. See you at the next one.